We're sat here with a proper Manchester United legend. He was a force of nature in his prime, Ferguson's first captain. And he left blood, sweat and tears wherever he went. It's a massive honor to have you on our podcast, Bryan Robson.
No, thanks very much. So it's really nice to come across to Norway and see the fans and the people here. Always have a great time.
And you've been here before, actually?
Yeah, I've been quite a few times. Not just to Trondheim, but all different parts of Norway, because we have a lot of fan clubs in different areas. And I'm fortunate enough to go in touch with one lad who always invites me and Dennis now and again. I've been over with Ronnie and Peter Schmeichel when we went to a Viking camp and did all axe throwing and everything and that. So, yeah, it's always been great fun coming across here.
Yeah. We're sat here at a very nice dinner table, actually. You joked before we started talking here that are we going to have dinner? We're not, but we're just having water. But in your days as a player, you would prefer a pint, a rather, what shall I say, special kind of pint, wouldn't you? Guinness and eggs, wasn't it?
Well, that was when I needed building up. Everybody at West Bromwich Albion thought I was a little bit too frail to be a top player. So they put me on a special diet. But the drink, yes, I used to have sherry, eggs, milk, and the eggs were raw. So it was one of those where you close your eyes and just drank it, and then in the evening I always had to have a bottle of Macassin with my meal, and so I think that Ron Atkinson did the one trick. I did actually mature and sort of like get a bit stronger. But the thing was then I got used to Guinness.
You mentioned Ron, and he was obviously a manager at West Brom. Then he went to Manchester United and you followed on quite soon after. I put together a few facts here, which we were going to call like funny things Bryan Robson might not have known about Bryan Robson. But it's kind of significant stages of your career at United. And one of the first one is going back to the 3rd of October 1981 when you signed on the pitch ahead of the Wolverhampton game. That was actually the same day as Zlatan Ibrahimovic was born. It's just a funny thing. But coming to United as the most expensive player in Britain, was that an extra pressure, or did it feel like, okay, I'm coming to play for Ron again, so I know what I'm facing here?
No, well, it wasn't just coming to play for Ron, who I got on really well with at West Brom. I knew Ray Wilkins, Stevie Coppell, Gary Bailey from my England days. So I knew what I was coming into, but it wasn't extra pressure. I mean, what I wanted to achieve. What happened is West Brom sold two of the best players. Laurie Cunningham went to Real Madrid, and Len Cantello went to Bolton. And so I was disappointed in that because it was two of my best teammates, and we'd sold them. And I thought, well, if I want to win things in the game, you can't sell your best players, and you're not going to win things if you're selling your best players all the time. And so that's what made my mind up that I wanted to go to one of the big clubs. Fortunately for me, playing for Ron, he came straight in for me, and I ended up at Manchester United. But that wasn't pressure going to Man United. It was the pressure that I wanted, because I wanted to play for a big club in a great atmosphere, and I wanted to win things in my career. And fortunately, it only took me the 2 seasons before we won the FA Cup in '83. And when we actually won that, and I picked up the cup at Wembley, and that, I just thought that this is why I've come to this football club, to win things.
Ron Atkinson described you as pure gold when you signed at Man United, and you were England's most expensive player at that time. Like you said, you had a certain amount of pressure. We see now over the years that there's so many players coming to Manchester United not coping with that pressure. Why do you think that is?
Well, it affects people in different ways. I mean, I think my first year in '81, I felt the pressure a little bit as well. When you say you feel the pressure, it's not nerves or anything like that. I think because of the transfer fee, you just try too hard. And so you try too hard, and when you do that, you don't actually play your natural game. But then I went to the World Cup in '82, and I had a good competition. England had a pretty good competition. I mean, we went 5 games, and because of the format of the competition, we didn't get beat, and yet we got knocked out of the competition. So that was disappointing. But I came back in the season of '82-'83, and I was just full of confidence because I'd played against some of the best players in the world. And, you know, I'd coped with that well and thought I had a good competition. You know, so coming back into that season, like I say, I was full of confidence. I settled down and started playing my natural game.
I was just going to say, you referred to the game in '83 against Brighton, certainly the replay. You're still the only player in Manchester United's history, or should I say a midfield player, to score twice in an FA Cup final. There's a few others that's done it. Cantona, Hughes, Van Nistelrooy. But how significant was it to kind of get a trophy early on, both in '83 and then later in '85, to kind of build the momentum under one? Because I think what a lot of United fans forget is that United would have been a Champions League team every year under one. If it was like top 4 was Champions League back then.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just the way the game was at that time. Unfortunately for us, in the '80s, Liverpool had an outstanding team full of international players. You know, and I think our squad from '83 to '85 was really, well, the team was really strong. And so that's why we competed well when we played against Liverpool, because the boys could cope with it. But as soon as we got 2, 3, 4 injuries, I don't think the squad was as strong as Liverpool's, where they had top international players to come in and replace the players who got injured, where we didn't really have that depth in the squad. And so that's why we always fell down trying to win the title. I mean, a perfect example of that was '85 when we got off, and you know, we won the first 10 Premier League games, and then I think it was 15, 16 games before we actually got beat. But I can always look back, and John Gidman had broke his leg, Gordon Strachan had dislocated his shoulder, Big Paul McGrath had problems with his knees, and then I ripped my hamstring playing for England. So when we all went out, that's when we started to get beat, and we dropped a lot of points. And so by the time we got back, we were sitting in 3rd place then, rather than be well clear at the top of the league. So that was disappointing, and it was unfortunate for Ron, because he didn't really have the chance to build, you know, on that team, where he knew he had a good team when he had his first 11 out, but he just didn't quite have the finances to go on and build it to compete with Liverpool at that time.
So when he left the club, a certain Scotsman came in from Aberdeen. What kind of immediate changes did you feel when Sir Alex came to United?
No, you know, everybody says about Sir Alex and the discipline and all that, and I think he's definitely like that, you know, with the young players especially. But the boss was very, he kept it simple when he first came in, and I can always remember his first team talk to us. He sat all the squad down in the gym at the Cliff training ground with the YTS boys as well, and he stood there, and Archie Knox, his assistant, they were both standing at the top of the steps, and he just went, right, everybody's got a chance to prove themselves to me and Archie. He says, we're really looking forward to working with everybody. Let's go out and train. And that's how simple Alex left it. He just made sure that everybody knew they had a chance and they had to prove themselves to him. So that was the start. But then you could see in training, the players had to be right at it all the time. Where with Ron would be a bit more relaxed, and he wanted the players to really enjoy the training and just enjoy playing football. So Alex wanted you to enjoy and really work hard at what he's wanting to put over. But he was a lot more disciplined at it, and so if anybody started mucking about a little bit, or not taking the session serious, then he would stop, and there would be serious consequences for that player. So those were the little bit of differences. But other than that, time-wise, keeping training sessions nice and sharp and all that. So Alex was very similar to what we were used to with Ron Atkinson. But then on the other side, I can always remember first pre-match meal, we had the bosses walking around, and he's looking at pre-match meal that the players were having, and the first thing he did, he got the waitresses to come round, take all the butter off, and it had to be margarine. The white bread rolls went, and it had to be brown bread rolls. And then he was watching me having a cup of tea right at the end of it, and I put 2 sugars into my tea. And he went, within a couple of months, he says, I want that down to none.
Yeah.
So it was just subtle little things like that, which he would speak to the players, but he put his mark on what he wanted.
Is there a particular pep talk from Ferguson that you remember well?
No, I mean, he was a little bit more thorough in team talks than any other manager that I'd worked with before, in the sense that he'd tell you what he wanted from his team, but then he'd have made notes and watched videos and everything, and he'd make sure that you knew the strengths of the opposition. Not loads, because you can't fill players with too much information. It's the important things that you need to know. And that was his style, that he'd always look at the opposition and you'd know what he thought their strengths were, we had to nullify. And then on the other side of it, they maybe had weaknesses which we wanted to sort of exploit. So he was very good and very detailed in that. But other than that, it was always go out there, express yourself and enjoy it, but work hard for each other. Sometimes, I mean, everybody knows about the hairdryer treatment, and that did happen on certain occasions. But sometimes you didn't even realise, because you're playing and you're involved in the game. And so you don't really see what the manager has seen. But I used to sit next to Pally because he was number 6, I was number 7. And when the boss had come in at half time, he'd look across to us two, and I'm going, please be Polly. And it nearly always was. It was always Polly. But I just don't think the boss, being a centre forward, I don't think he likes centre halves. And so Polly used to get the hairdryer treatment quite a bit. But the boss would say certain things which angered him, and then that's when he would go into his hairdryer mode.
Yeah, and I guess that was the culture at the club at that time, and perhaps the biggest strength at Manchester United back then was the team spirit. What kind of team bonding activities did you organize back then?
Well, I always thought it was important that you work hard together on training pitch, but as a group of players, you need to get to know each other, get to know each other's families and that sort of thing, or know if anybody's got problems or anything, so then you can help them. And so when I was at West Brom, we had some great experienced pros who did that all the time. We'd go horse racing or play a game of golf and go out together. So that's where I thought this is great, because I was one of the only young players at West Brom. All the rest of the boys were quite experienced. So when I went into Manchester United, I was conscious of, once I was made captain by Ron Atkinson, that was important to bond with the boys. So we'd either go for a meal. If there was a really good racing day, we'd get all the boys to go to the racing and have a few drinks and let the hair down. Or a game of golf, like I said before. But the lads used to love this, because even when you were playing golf, afterwards you'd sit down and have a few beers before you went home. And people, when they've had a few beers, will probably tell the truth that little bit more. And I can always remember Andrea Kanchelskis, and he couldn't really speak very good English at the time. And anyway, everybody's bantering about, and Sparky had said some things, Cantona had, and all that. And Andre, he didn't drink, but this day he decided that he was going to have a couple of lagers, and so he had a couple of lagers. And the next minute he turns on me and he points at me, and he goes, "Robbo, he says, you have a go at everybody," he says, and all that. I'm going, "Hold on, Andre, I don't have a go at everybody." I says, "Sometimes I have a go," I says, "but sometimes I encourage everybody." And anyway, he goes, "Yeah, I know," he says, "but you've always got something to say," he says, "and sometimes you're shit." And the lads all just broke out laughing, like, because it's the first time Andre had said anything, and it was, I was shit.
Going back to what you said about Fergie giving simple messages sometimes to players, I remember Brian McClare told me ahead of the game against Barcelona in '91, he said, "Look after Ronald Koeman and we will win the game." Probably one of your best games in the United shirt, in my opinion. That game showed me, at least, that maybe this is a turning point for United now. We won the FA Cup, or should I say, you won the FA Cup, the Cup Winners' Cup. We get nearer and nearer to the title, and then you had to add just a tiny little bit of finesse with Eric Cantona coming in. How relieved are you when you look back at it now that you actually managed to get those 2 Premier League titles towards the end of your career? Because it would have been a great shame if you didn't have those medals in the cupboard.
Yeah. Look, I look at Steven Gerrard, and unfortunately for him, the career he had, and he didn't win the title. So I look back and, say if it wasn't for them last 2 years, I wouldn't have won the title. So thankfully, it was the case that we were a strong enough side, and the last piece of the jigsaw, when Eric came in, helped us to win the title. But when you go back to that '91, the European Cup Winners' Cup, for me that was the best evening one-off game that I played in, sort of thing. I thought I played well, even though it was Sparky who got the 2 goals. But I thought my overall game was good. And look, we'd been out of Europe for 5 years, and we come back into it, and to win the European Cup after 5 years out of Europe, I thought was a great achievement by the set of players, because Barcelona was such a good team at that time as well. But yeah, it was a strange team meeting, because the boss had been talking all week about just setting us up and what we were all about. But then just before we're going out, he's having his last sort of talk, and he went to Chalky, Chalky, if you do your job, he says, we'll win this cup. And Chalky's gone, do my job, sort of thing. And you can see it written across Bryan's face, what's my job? And then he said, Ronald Koeman sets up all their play. He says, I know you're a forward. He says, but you get on him, and the goalkeeper cannot pass out from the back through him. And so Chalky went, yeah, and that's the one thing Brian McClare was brilliant at. He was a team player, and he did his job, and that's why we won.
And you also won the first Premier League title in '93. Bjarte, you have written a brilliant feature on that season, and in that story, Steve Bruce, he tells us that after the party you had at Bruce's house, he goes down in the living room the next morning, and he finds Bryan Robson mopping the floor at 6:30.
Yeah, my wife was doing the glasses and washing everything up, and I'd swept the floor and mopped everything up. Yeah, so
that's a real captain, isn't it?
That's a captain. That is a captain. Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean that was a great evening. I mean, obviously we'd won the title. But we know what the boss is like, and so we'd said that we could have a few drinks at Steve's, but not to go crazy, because having the game against Blackburn the following day. But the one good thing about the Blackburn game, it was sort of like 8 o'clock kickoff, and so we could all go to bed in the afternoon.
That's true.
But when you see Manchester United today, what do you look for in a captain? What should a Manchester United captain be like for you, in your eyes?
Look, for me, it's not always, giving people a telling off and that sort of thing. Now and again, if you think they're really slack, you do as a captain, you have a go at them, because you want to encourage them to get better in the game. But it's more encouraging rather than bollocking. So I used to take that on myself. But then it's also in the midfield area, whether you're captain or not, you can see what the forwards are doing. You can see what your midfield players are doing sort of alongside you. And so it's really important that if you're going to go and press, you organise people that you're in a shape where you can go and press. If you're going to drop off, then you tell everybody that you've got to drop off. And for me, that's part of a captain's role. You've got to let your teammates know what you're going to do. Are you going to go and press, or are you going to go and sit back and let people come on to you? Because once you've made that decision in the midfield area, the forwards know what they're doing. You know what you're doing. And then the back four can see you all in front of you anyway, so they know what they're doing. And if we're going to go and press, then the back four, like Brucey and Pally and that, they knew they had to push up and push in with us if we were going to go and press. Otherwise, you get disjointed. So, for me, that's part of it. But then also, if you go a goal down, then it's a matter of encouraging the lads and making sure nobody drops their head, and you just fizzle out of the game. So for me, those are sort of the rules on the pitch as being captain, and you make sure that if the manager has said something really important to whatever sort of part of the pitch it is. You make sure that the person's doing that role that the manager wanted.
Can we just have a few words on a young Kobbie Mainoo and his fantastic rise at United, and how much would you have loved to play alongside him in your prime?
Well, it's always really nice as a player to play alongside great players, and I think Kobbie, as long as he keeps his feet on the ground, works hard at his game, he's going to be a fabulous player. I mean, to come into the squad of players at Christmas, I know he was a bit unlucky at pre-season where he got injured, so that's why he didn't probably play up till Christmas. But when he came in to go on, win the FA Cup, get player of the match against a team like City, was great ability, a great calmness about his play, you know, in his head. So he reads the game well. So it would have been unbelievable first season for him if they could have won the Euros last night. You know, to win the FA Cup, win the Euro final, would have been an incredible start to his career. But I'm sure he'll win things, you know, in the future because, like I say, he's got everything about him. The mentality, he looks really good because he doesn't sort of lose his temper. He keeps calm and he lets his football brain do the work. So I think he's going to be a real plus for Manchester United.
You're going on tour with Manchester United this summer. The manager has been talking about a new and positive energy around the club now, with all the changes being made, and probably a few signings coming in this summer. What's your expectations for the upcoming season?
Well, expectations at United is Champions League. Is really important that we get in the top four to make sure that we make Champions League. Hopefully win another trophy. I mean, Eric's done really well as far as that's concerned. You know, 2 cup finals in his first year, winning the League Cup, getting into the Champions League, and then with all the injuries that we had, I thought he did really well to go on and win the FA Cup, because we had to get through Liverpool, we had to get through City to actually achieve that. You know, and both of them were playing really well at the time that we played them. So, you know, the manager's done well to keep a trophy coming into the club. And I'm really pleased that we didn't change everything about again as a club. I'm pleased that we've stuck with him. Looks as if he's going to get great support from Sir Jim and his staff. And so hopefully, like I said, Champions League and win a trophy.
Excellent. We could have been here for hours, but thank you so much for your time, Bryan.
No, thanks very much, lads.